So, hi everyone. I have 15 minutes and I'm going to get cut off. I just know that's going to happen because it's been like 17 minutes every time I've practiced. So, I come out from Silicon Valley to bring you the Relay Playbook, which is a list of things not to do. I prefer not to-do lists because to-do lists take a lot of energy and then you have to do stuff. And every now and then I prefer to be a little lazy. So here's my not to-do list for everyone who wants to get involved with the innovation space, startups, entrepreneurs, anything like that. So who the heck am I? I started 2.6 years ago something called the Relay Foundation. It's a charity in the US, in Silicon Valley, that helps young people start social businesses. We deal exclusively with for-profits. We've had a clothing company, a battery company, some social tech that have fed hundreds of thousands of people. Our companies have pitched to Google, Andreessen Horowitz, and they've won Angel Hack and a bunch of stuff. We're happy. So 26 years, 40 companies, 1,000 entrepreneurs. Good times. Thank you. Yes. What the heck are we doing? 31 country, 45 city world tour. About 3.5 months ago, we started off in DC. We've wrapped ourselves around going to a bunch of service providers, government agencies, investors to figure out the best and worst practices and how to build these innovation systems in these startup worlds. That's this. That's our big thing. These are our findings, and this is what we're going to provide to you. Why the heck are we here in Norway? First off, younger sibling advantage. Norway's slightly late to the game in terms of tech entrepreneurship, and you're in the same place that I was when I grew up, because I had an older sister, and it was amazing, because she would always get in trouble, and I would always know what not to do to get in trouble. That's what you have. You have the advantage to copy all of the good stuff and not get all of the bad stuff. So, and you have rocket fuel. You have solid intellectual, cultural, social, and financial capital here. The question is, how are you going to expend it in the best possible way? That is what I'm hoping to sort of provide with the not to do. And so here's the inside scoop. First off, stop leading. Number one thing, who here is an entrepreneur? Please raise your hand. Thank you. You're the only ones who can lead the space. Anyone that wants to lead the space, from government, service providers, finance, anything else like that, I understand. It's a pretty sweet gig. You can't do it. Let's tell a story. I was in Manila. Now, Manila is a fun little situation in the Philippines. There are 10 families that control 80% of the wealth, most of it through telecoms. Now, there was a bit of a war a few years ago where one of the families started a telecom, and what they would do is they would say free SMS. Up to that point, most of their money was charging per SMS. And of a country of 90 million people, I think it was, 90% of the people used at least 5 SMS a day. So they lost a lot of money. So their question is, where are we going to do this? Now they shifted to data. Now, to do data, they're like, all right, we got to do big data startups that are good for mobile. That's a very specific vertical to support. And they had this combination team called Idea Space. Now, they took in 700 applications. They sourced down to 20 teams. 20 teams, 5 social entrepreneurship, 5 manufacturing. 10 of them actually used big data. Only 8 of those were mobile. That means 8 of 700 were going to be able to be supported. Now, here's a quick question. What do you think the service provided, the financing, the wins, all of the stuff that went to the winners was aimed at? The social entrepreneurs? The manufacturing companies? No. They were thrown completely under the bus. So what ends up happening is you're stuck with 8 companies that are supported right and 12 that were lost potential. Why does this happen? Why is it not good that anyone but entrepreneurs lead the space? 1, different goals. Anyone else, businesses are focusing on making a lot of profits. Governments are focusing on creating jobs. Entrepreneurs are focusing on creating companies. In the short term, they don't align with any other service provider. And so if that service provider speaks for these entrepreneurs, that's going to slow the space. Not good. 2, different masters. Again, going back to government, it's citizens. For companies, it's customers. So again, that same citizen can be the same customer until the government one thing and the company the other, and they're going to fight. So the entrepreneurs really need to lead the space. Last but not least, time horizons. Government agencies operate off of election cycles. Companies operate off of, oh my God, it's 2 a.m., the site's down. Where are we going? What's going on? The government can't help that. You can't call your MP and just say, hey, my site's down. Can you put something out on Twitter? That doesn't work that way. So if it's not the entrepreneurs, you're going to have these problems. So please stop leading. Instead, support. enable them to have access to space, pass some laws that make it easy for investors to get involved. Copenhagen has an amazing plan where they provide a matching model and a loan that the investors can actually buy out. The UK provides a 103% capital gains buyback if you actually carry forward the loss. So you make money by investing early stage. These are things that you can do to get early stage entrepreneurs, mostly young people, money. Number 2, stop innovating. Just stop. Just innovation, throw the word out. It annoys me so much. Here's why. We're going to talk about Cairo. I was speaking to some guy named Nafis. Now, Nafis was doing a mapping study on 53 MOOCs, massive online open courses, different companies that were providing free education. How many business models did they have? 1, to tackle this same problem set. How do you provide good content at the right time to the right people? All of this was one business model. Different revenue models, one business model. There really wasn't much innovation. It was about pretty much slogging at it and sweating until you found the right thing for the people. If you innovate and you focus on this, oh, we have to innovate, it has to be the most ridiculous thing, we need to aim for moonshot companies, you're going to have problems. First off, it's been done. Most business models have been done. They've been built, they've either succeeded or failed, and there are people talking about why. You have Google, there's really no excuse. So if you just instead focus on localizing successful past ventures, that's going to do more for your innovation space than focusing on building the next Google. Because let's be honest, let's look here. You find a team that's super smart, they have a great product, it's world changing. What's going to happen once they get going? Are they going to stay here or are they going to go to Silicon Valley? They're going to go where the support is, they're going to go where the money is, and they're going to go where they know people know what they're doing. They're going to leave. If you don't bring in proven models to develop the space first, you're not going to have any of the touch points that keep those big companies local. 2, sourcing is more important than networking. The networking is more important than sort of creating new things. Don't reinvent the wheel. You have a silo here of massive amounts of support and capital. Why can't you leverage that more efficiently by bringing in people from other universities from around the world and building things that have been proven to work? But that's where the innovation starts. That's where the innovation gets going, because you're like, oh, you've got your PhD from there, you've got your master's from there. Wait a second, I never knew. Oh, and that's where the stuff starts actually happening. Last but not least, they're longer lasting and more stable. If you're sourcing proven models, you know the problem set, the market, the product, what it needs to look like, who you need to hire, when you need to hire them. This minimizes the need to fail. So I would say the less you innovate, the better. Instead, source and develop networks that can sort of put people together so they can innovate themselves. If there is a spectrum from 1 to 10, risk averse, risk loving, no one can move someone from a 1 to a 5 or a 6 to an 8. The best we can hope to do is to remove the impediments that are stopping the 8s, 9s, and 10s from doing what they want to be doing. Last but not least, stop doing stuff. What's the doctor phrase? Don't just do something, stand there. Here's the phrase. This happens all around the world. Uganda. There was a startup, I was judging a business plan pitch thing for some investment, and there was a company that didn't have a revenue model. They said they'd figured it out, but what matters most is getting these drugs to these people so they can be healthy. And I hear that, but that's an emotional desire that's getting in the way of the success of your company. Most likely it's not going to do too well. Second, Malaysia. Plenty of co-working spaces opening up, none of them full, because in Malaysia, not many people like being open about who they're working with because they're afraid their customers are going to get stolen. That was not doing market research, and when I talked to them, they said, I never knew. Because they couldn't see themselves failing. That's reason 2. Last but not least, Sweden actually has a 350 million US fund for North Sweden. But the stringent requirements to actually get the funds make it really hard to empower the space. So these are, yeah, see? This is what we're talking about. Thank you. So this is why this happens. First off, there are 2 different startup types. There's need-based and there's opportunity-based. Need-based, logical. You need to eat. You need to do something. Usually there's not a lot of value added. More often than not, it's like selling your shirt to buy food for your family. You don't have networks. You don't have time. You have to act quickly. You're usually not prepped. Second kind is opportunity-based. You have a little bit more relaxation. You found a cool market that can be capitalized. You've done your research on your product. You've done your research on your teams. There's a much greater chance of success. Things are amazing. Now pocket that. Here are 2 rates that the human brain for some reason cannot grasp. First, compound interest. We always assume, like, we get the idea that it just gets better, And what that does to us is we want to act quickly. We assume that if we act now, 50 years from now, it's going to be way, way better because of the interest on our good action. If we save one life now, just think of it, if we don't save the life now, then 50 years from now, we're going to lose all of the interest that we could have had. That forces us to ignore the future almost entirely in our planning when it comes to companies and look very, very close. The second is discount rates. And this is how it works. If I gave you 1,000 kroner today or 2,000 kroner next year, which would you take? 1,000 today. You have a 100% discount rate. What you do is you do the difference between the initial amount and how much you could have had, put it on top, divide by. So that means 100%. If you were offered 50,000 now or 100,000, you'd take the 50,000. But think about how this applies to saving lives. If our discount rate is that high, and it often is, more often than not, the number of the people you'd have to save in the future would need to be so large that it's more than the people that are alive on this planet. So what that does is it forces you, even if you do research about where your company could be, to again look right away. And this forces people to act fast. It forces them to run companies that are opportunity-based like need-based. And so you look at these companies that should be capitalizing markets efficiently, and what they're doing instead is acting as fast as possible and making any decision because right now the impact matters. So what I recommend is instead of just doing anything, as service providers, as entrepreneurs, as everyone in this community, if you see someone just rushing, tell them that. Don't just do something. Stand there. Wait. Make connections. Make friends. Understand a little bit more what needs to actually be done. Otherwise, your chances of failure are going to go up, and your total aggregate impact, the tie, is going to go down. And if we are really looking about empowering young people, we need to train them to think like this. Because if we have another generation of people who are just, well, right now is good. Why not right now? Things are going to go wrong. So I would say, remember those things, the 4 things. 1, don't lead, support. Entrepreneurs need support, but they need to take control of the space themselves. 2, don't innovate, source. Develop the networks that are necessary for real innovation to actually occur. 3, don't just do anything. Do the right thing and take the time. Be willing to wait to have it be the right time. And last but not least, don't forget my sister. She makes a lot of mistakes, and I'm much better off because of it. It would be a shame if you would look at all of the mistakes of every other startup and innovation ecosystem around the world, and for you to say, let's do that exact same thing. Even the ecosystems that you're mirroring would be like, come on, this doesn't work well for anyone. So actually, I haven't been cut off yet, so either they were nice and that was interesting, or I'm under time, and please contact me, Twitter, Facebook. I have a business card. I want to talk with all of you, and this is just the beginning. Like, we've met with 240 or so organizations. It's going to be 300 by the end of the month. I would love to help in any way, shape, or form, or just to hear what you're doing. Thank you so much.